This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that you'll consider this your vitamin and mineral for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review, and it'll help others to be able to locate this podcast. Today I want to talk about how do you get better? Whatever you do in life, you need to improve. As you know, I primarily am talking to people in leadership positions, but understand your primary leadership position in life is to lead yourself. You're a leader in your family, you're a leader at your church, you're a leader at work, regardless of whether you have that title or not. So all of us should be interested in what do I need to do to improve? And how can I get better? And I'm going to give you 5 things that I think you can take any one of those and seek to do some improvement. But before we get into those 5, we have to come to an understanding. You have to understand where you are today. Are you familiar with the word delusion? There are many people who are just trying to fool themselves as to where they are. You think you're somewhere else that you really aren't, and you're trying to fool yourself. You need to understand why you are where you are and where you are today. Now, because I believe in God, I don't believe any of us are particularly accidentally where we are. But I'm wanting to not so much look at God's reason for having you where you are. I want you to think about you are exactly today where you've planned on being. How do I know that? Because everything that has happened in your life has led you to this very moment. We continually want to blame our parents, blame the country, blame the Congress, blame the president, blame our neighbors, blame our boss, blame nepotism, blame that no one appreciates who I am. And that seems to be almost elevated to a sporting event, at least in my country. Can you push back from that from a moment and look in the mirror and really ask yourself this important question? What have I done that has contributed to me being where I am today? What decisions, consciously or semi-consciously, have gone into it? If you sleep till noon and miss the morning opportunities, that's no one else's fault. And you can say, well, you don't understand. I get all of that. But until you and I take ownership of our own lives, our own attitudes, our own actions, the things that we do, until we get to that point, we're never going to get any better. We're never going to be in any different kind of a place. Because if you spend the rest of your days blaming your circumstance, your situation, your particular life on someone else, you're missing the major part. You have more control over what happens to you than you think you do. Then there is a providential sense in which I would say you are also then where you need to be. Someone right now where you live needs you. Someone where you work needs your influence. Someone in your family obviously needs your attention and they need your influence. And so before we can even really have a serious conversation on what are the things that I need to do to improve and get better, you have to have a basic understanding of why am I where I am today. Well, that's probably enough of that. You're wanting to hear the 5 things that I think you can do that will help you to improve. And here's the first one: face your fears. Many of us are where we are because we are afraid to move ahead. We're afraid to do what we might think we need to do. For instance, I heard a quote from Babe Ruth years and years ago. For several years before Henry Aaron passed him and now others, he was the undisputed home run king. But he was also the king of striking out. He struck out in his era more than anyone else. Here's what Babe Ruth said: I can't let the fear of strikeouts so overwhelm me that I don't keep swinging the bat. Now, most of us aren't baseball players that are listening to this podcast, but is there a fear of failure? Is there a fear of what others will think? Is there a fear of, I tried something a few years ago and it blew up in my face? Is there a fear of, I don't know, maybe I'm an imposter, maybe I really can't do those things? Until you push past fears, you'll never be anywhere different than you are today. And as you're taking stock of where you are, ask yourself this very important question. How much does fear play into me being stuck? How much does my fear and the overwhelming amount of fear of changing or moving or doing or going, how much does all of that keep me stuck where I am? You have to face your fears. All of us have them. That's one of the things that I recommend periodically, that you read biographies of influential people. You will notice that every one of them, whether they come out and overtly admit it or you have to read between the lines, was a fearful person at one time. There was some fear. They started life with some sort of an impediment. They had some sort of a handicap of family or lack of education or lack of anyone coming along and mentoring them. But somehow, some way, they became consumed with getting better and not staying where they were and making a difference. And they pushed past their fears. Someone out there needs to hear this today. You are afraid, and the people who have excelled are not people who were unafraid. They were people who moved past their fears. Now, I'm not saying be risky and foolhardy and forget the responsibilities, but if you're going to improve, you're going to have to move past some of those fears. Don't allow the fear of striking out to so overwhelm you that you're afraid to swing the bat. You need to swing the bat. So the first thing, if you want to get better, you want to make changes, is to face your fears. The second is admit mistakes. In the era when I was growing up and listening and following leaders, rarely did I ever hear a leader ever admit publicly that they did something wrong or they messed up. Now, I'm not even talking about willful sin. I'm just talking about making mistakes. And I had noticed, now that I'm moving up the age situation, but when I was younger, if I would in a presentation or a preaching admit something stupid I had done or something that didn't work out well, that oftentimes in the generations ahead of me, it made people uncomfortable. They had this idea that our leaders are on a pedestal and they're idolized and they always make the right choices. I think it humanizes you. I think it causes you personally to begin dealing with whatever went into it. And I have to admit, I've learned some of the greatest lessons in leadership and life, not from all of the so-called successes or things that worked out well. I learned a lot more, unfortunately, through failures, through things not working out. And just go ahead and admit it. Whether it's Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, any of the great inventors and leaders of bygone eras, you will hear them constantly embrace mistakes. Because when they made a mistake, they learned one way that it doesn't work. You're not going to go from one perfect set of circumstances to the next. And many of us are so fearful of mistakes or problems that we are missing the whole school that could improve us, the teachers who could help us to get better and to improve. And if you're a person who is uncomfortable ever admitting you were wrong, you can't even say the word wrong, or that, hey, I tried something, I did something, I came up with this fantastic plan and it unraveled at the seams and didn't do one thing that I intended for it to do, admit that. Rather than people thinking you're not a person to be followed, it will give you credibility that you're real. And that if you are, when a leader is willing to admit when something didn't work, I think it raises the comfort level of people following that leader, because they say the leader isn't going to ignore reality And if something doesn't work, they're going to make sure that we know that and move on. So how to get better? You got to face your fears. Go ahead and admit your mistakes and remind people what you've learned through those. Let's go to the third of 5. And that's make sure you're focused on the right things. I meet a lot of folks that have laser-like focus. They're just focusing on things that are inconsequential. We think that focus is the problem. A lot of times it's not that focus is the problem, it's what are you focused on. If you're focused on trivia, other than if you're going to enter a Trivial Pursuit tournament, it's not going to make much difference. I see a lot of resources and a lot of energy and a lot of time spent on frivolity and things that don't make an eternal difference and things that don't move you or the people you're leading any farther forward. So if you want to get better, before I would tell you to focus, I would say before you focus, what are you going to focus on? Make sure that the things you focus on are things that are going to make you better, the organization better, going to make you stronger, going to help fulfill the goals that you believe in, the mission of the organization where you're working. So the third thing in getting better is make sure you're focused on the right thing. Number 4 is obvious. If you want to get better, you have to be concerned with continual improvement. If you want to get better, before the organization can get better, before your town gets better, before your family gets better, you have to get better. And you have to be committed. I mean, all in on continual or continuous improvement. Because here's the absolute reality of life, my friend. You are either getting better or you're going backward. No one stays the same or stands still, or you cannot live in a holding pattern for very long. The truth of the matter is you have to continually improve. It was Albert Einstein who said you need holy curiosity. You need to be saying, how am I going to do? I got to focus on continual improvement. Now, this is not to be egotistical or bragging, but you have to get better because it's not so much confidence in yourself. As a Christian, my confidence is in the God who created me, and I'm sure He wants me to be the best and to be all that I can be. I believe it was Tony Romo, former Dallas Cowboy quarterback who now is a football commentator, who said that when he was a young quarterback, his continual improvement, he was trying to become the best quarterback, the best player that he could be, get stronger, faster, better. But then as he became an older quarterback, he not just focused on what do I have to do to be better, but what do I need to do and how can I lead to make the entire team better? So I want to make sure that you hear me. It's not all about me and it's not all about you. Yet we need to continually improve because we're the ones we have control over. But by doing that, we need to be asking ourselves, what are the things that we need to be doing that will make the team better, will make the team stronger? You never, I don't care how old you are, how many degrees you have, and what wonderful things you have done in your life, thank God for all of them, but you haven't reached your limit yet. You can still learn something. You can still improve somewhere. You can still continue to grow and allow yourself to be stretched. The saddest thing in all the world is to watch women and men who have made a conscious decision to coast to the end of their life, coast until retirement. One of the reasons that some people don't talk about retirement is because oftentimes when people begin to talk about retirement, it's almost like they start retiring while they're still working a position. You need to have no limit. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you went to school, if you went to school is inconsequential at this moment. Every one of us have not reached our limit. There's still something we can learn. There's still some area where we can be better. And we just need to dedicate ourselves. If I want to get better, I have to commit that learning and continual improvement is a lifelong pursuit. I want to give you one final one on how we can get better. And that is you just have to commit yourself to getting better. Nothing in life happens until someone makes a commitment. You don't become a person of faith until you make a commitment. You don't decide to go to school until you make a commitment. Commitments cost us. When I commit to something, it means I'm also committing to not do a whole lot of other things. Commitment means I'm all in. If it costs me resources, if it costs me time, if it makes me uncomfortable, if it stretches me and causes me pain, it doesn't matter. Hey, you need to be committed to God. You need to be committed to your family, your faith, your friends, your organization. You can't be the leader even of yourself. You can't lead yourself until you've made a commitment that you are going to get better. So continually improve. How to get better? You can get better, but you have to understand why you are where you are right now. Face your fears. Fear is not going to go away. It'll be your friend. You're going to have to push past it and keep going. Go ahead and admit your mistakes and remind us of what marvelous lessons you learned through those events. Always focus on the right thing. Don't just get a good focus, but focus on the right things. May you be a person who believes in continual and continuous improvement, and you make a commitment for you and the organization, your family, everyone to get better. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that this has been a vitamin or a supplement for your heart and mind today. And please, my friends, wherever you download podcasts from, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Listen Notes, it's everywhere. It's even coming to Alexa on TuneIn. I just ask that you would subscribe, leave a brief written rating. It would be very helpful. Listen, you can get better and you need to. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, leader, you're doing better than you think you are. And until next time, have a great and blessed day.